God bless you. We're glad to have you for another podcast for Growing in Grace. We're glad that you're with us and hope that you will like, share, and subscribe and tell your friends and your neighbors about this podcast. And today I have with me Sister Pat Allen, Sister Patricia Allen.
Yes.
And she is going to talk with us. We're going to have a conversation about being a widow.
Okay.
At an early age.
Early age.
And having two little girls
Yes.
to finish raising.
Right.
And we just pray that you will get some edification from this conversation.
Okay.
So Sister Allen, we kind of go way back.
Way back.
And you're not a stranger to me. And I remember your husband,
Yes.
Wayne Allen. And so we got that tragic news one day that he didn't make it home.
Yes.
And so tell us about your journey as a widow and tell us something about
Okay. Well, just to just go a little bit further back than the actual event that took him, where he transitioned. We were just like, it's just the normal little family, the little two girls and the little house and the husband and wife, and which was, we had a great marriage. We got married. Well, let's go back a little bit further. I actually met Wayne in the 8th grade, and so we became friends, and we was friends all our high school. And of course, I was in the church, and my mom and dad, strong pillars of the church. So Deacon Andrews wasn't having that dating and stuff like that. So we would just had to be good friends. And so, but after he got out of high school, he went off into the military, and I went to college and things like that. And he actually, after he got out of the military, he actually started we started conversating back, what had transpired over those years. And we got married, and it evolved, and we got married and things like that. And we started raising our family. Wayne, when he passed away, he was only 40. He had just turned 40 that March. And that same year, I turned 39. So it was just we were just like everybody else. You plan, you think, you talk about it. You like, okay, when the children get grown, we're gonna do this. So you're making those future plans.
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, we're gonna travel, we're gonna do this. So when the kids, he had already said, okay, I'm gonna retire at 55. I can retire at 55. The kids will be already grown. At the time, we just had the 2 kids, and we, had 2 daughters, and so we had things we was looking forward to, things we was working toward. On that day, we knew each other routines. All of that, we knew that. And I was at work at that time. I worked out of town, and he also worked out of town. And but we knew the routine. And so he would get home just a little bit before me. And so when he got home, he didn't come home. And so my oldest daughter, which at that time was 16, she called and she said, "Ma, Dad didn't come home. Was he supposed to get his hair cut today?" Because a lot of time he was a correctional officer for the state of Georgia. So a lot of time he would stay over and get his hair cut and things like that. But he would always tell us what he was doing. And I was like, "No, he didn't." I said, "But he should be there shortly," because one of his things was he protected his family. So he was going to get home. As soon as he thought those girls would be getting off the bus, he will pretty much already be home or right in process of getting home. And he just didn't show. So Marquita called back a little later and said, I supposed to go to work, Ma, and Daddy is not here to take me to work. So then I knew something was wrong. So I called where he worked. I said, "Is Officer Allen still there?" They said, "No, we'll check." They said, "No, he's not there." And I said, okay. They said, "Well, I'll check and see when did he leave." And they said, "Well, he left at 2 o'clock like he normally does." And so from that everybody, we didn't find him. He didn't ever come home. He didn't ever come home. So I got home from work. So my daughter called back and said, hey, he still didn't come home. So I got off from work and I came home. And so I just felt weird. I just feel, at that point, all on my way home, I can almost relive it. I'm like, I'm feeling funny. I'm really feeling something, because he always called. If he was going to be late, if he had to do something, if he was going by his mom, anything, he'd say, hey, I'm doing this, I'll be home shortly or whatever. And he never did. So
Did they have were we in a cell phone era at
we
that time?
had we had a phone, but it was not like the cell phone. It was
Okay.
like the car phone.
Oh, okay.
And we did have a car phone, but he did not, he never got home. And so as the night got older, and I was like, okay, something is really wrong, really wrong. But by that time, I've called back to the prison, to the where he worked, corrections, and they said he's an officer. He's still in uniform. We have to do an do an APB. We have to get out and look, because they don't know what didn't happen at that point. So everything at that point was crazy.
Yeah.
People coming to your house and officers coming to your house and different things like that. So we, my family, they was with me, and we just had to wait it out. We just had to wait it out. And so I have not told many people this, but I had told my mom this a week before it happened. I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I saw. I was not asleep. I was not asleep. I could hear the TV going, because sometimes I would sleep. We would sleep with the TV on, and I just saw people crying and people laughing, and it would seem like the happy faces and then the sad faces would. It would just come up and go. And so that was on a Saturday night. And the reason I remember that is because Sunday morning, I always took my mom and dad to church. So when I picked up my mom and dad the way to church, I said, Mama, I had the strangest, she said, I said, I don't think I was asleep, but it was a dream. And I said, people in these faces were over the city, and they was like crying. Then some people was laughing, and some people was crying. I said, it was almost like a death or something. I said, I said, oh, I don't know what that was about. I said, but God forbid if something would happen to Wayne. I said, I would have to come back and live with you all. And she said, oh no, you'll be okay. And so that was that Sunday, and it happened that Wednesday, that following Wednesday. And when, and I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have thought, and nobody else wouldn't have believed that had I not already told my mom. And when that happened, and the next day, when they actually went out, the helicopters, the GBIs, and all of those was looking for him, because he was an officer in uniform.
Right.
He was still in uniform, so they was looking for him, and they did the laser from the sky with the helicopter, looking over the woods and all of this, looking for his car. And so when the car went over this little small pond, they saw a large item in the pond. And they said, well, it's a large item in this pond. So they had the record service to come and pull it out. And it was him. And then one of the officers that traveled the way Wayne traveled back and forth, they said, we saw him. We saw him pull side the road, and he looked like he was fighting something, like he was like fighting a bee or a yellow jacket or something like that. But that's what he did. We know him to do that. Only one time we saw him had a seizure. That February. He died in July. That February, he was diagnosed with diabetes.
I see.
And his diabetes would bottom out. You know, most people would have problem with their sugar going too high. His would, he
Drop
could
too
wake
low.
up in the morning, it would be 24.
Oh, wow.
You know, or sometime, you know, a little bit less or whatever. And so, but if it does that, then it would throw you into a seizure because you don't have enough sugar or, you know, glucose to keep you going.
Right.
So, yeah. So when that happened, he said, I saw, you know, he was doing this, you know, this fighting, like he was fighting. He said, well, I went on down, and by the time I turned around and came back, his car was gone. So by that time, his car had gotten off the road and went into the pond.
I see.
So he said, I came back to see where he was, but his car was gone. So I assumed he had passed on by me, you know, and gone on home. So when the helicopter came back from searching for him, because everybody was out, the officers was out, other, you know, the prison where he worked, they had sent officers out. From my understanding, they had sent officers out, and everybody was out combing the area from the job to the house, and nobody could find him. Nobody could find him. They even searched where his car went off the road, but they did not see the tracks. And so, so when the helicopter found him, they said, you know, they told him that an object was there, and once they pulled him out, they found him. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then you got the call.
And well, actually, at that time I worked for the Department of Child Support Enforcement. So I was very close to the city chief. And so the city chief knew me very well, so he came to me. And he just came back, and he actually told me, you know, hey, the helicopter is going to go out. And he told me the whole scenario, how they will go out, they will come back after so many minutes, and they'll circle your house. And if they circle your house, that means we have not found them. Then we'll go back out. And we will do that until we find them, or we end for that day. So, but if they come to your house and they hover over your house, that means we found him, and it's not, you know. So they did. So the helicopter came, and it just hovered over the house. And
so then you knew.
I knew already.
Without
then.
him telling.
Yeah, but then when the chief came in, he was, you know, he said, Miss Patricia, I'm so sorry, you know. And we knew. So that was that, you know. It was like chaotic, you know. I think it was so chaotic at times that I don't even remember some of it, you know.
Yeah, some of you feel like you
yeah.
might have blocked out.
Yeah,
just to
yes,
try to protect yourself.
absolutely,
And,
absolutely, and protect the kids.
Yeah.
But one thing I do realize I had to do really quickly. I don't know. I was raised by a very strong mother and father. My mother went blind at 29, and that's not like you can see images. She went black, total blackness at 29, and she lived to be 86, blind that whole time. So I always say she was the strongest woman I know, because I don't know many people could have went that long, and we was still. And my dad was very strong because he stayed right there with my mom. That the whole 50, we never heard anything like your dad cheating on your mom or anything like that. You know, he just protected the family. I had a brother that was stricken with polio, so he was in the household as well. And my father took care of us and never left us and always provided for us. So I felt like I took his strength
So
So
you had seen adversity.
oh yeah,
And you've
oh
seen
yes,
how to overcome adversity.
exactly,
And how not to faint when you have
yes,
adversity.
absolutely,
You know, I was, there's a scripture that says, if you faint when you have adversity, then your strength is small.
oh yeah,
And so you had
absolutely,
seen great strength in your parents.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
you feel like someone that you'd inherited some
I
of that.
inherited it. Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes. I saw all that strength, and then I saw the strength of my mom because a lot of people knew my mom, and you would see her at church or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, Mother Andrews, Mother Andrews blind because you saw her in the shades. We didn't never treat her like she was blind at home because she didn't act like it. So we saw her. I saw her, make it through all of that. And we was all little kids when she first lost her sight. And then my dad was a young man, and he went through all of that and he stuck with it. So when that happened to me, and I'm going to be transparent, and this is a safe place.
Yes.
I was very hurt. I was very angry.
Yeah.
I was like, what you talking about? He's gone. Because I can remember the night before, we were sitting out because Wayne was, he loved to cut the grass and then turn the light on and everything looks pretty. He's like, go cut the light on. He looked at doesn't it look pretty? He was just a yard man. So we were sitting out the night before and he was talking about what we could do. We had only lived in that house. We had moved out of the house that we bought when we first got married. We bought a house. We had a little small house built. And then 12 years later, we said, I want a bigger house. I want the house I really want now. And so we had gotten another house. And this is the house that I still live in. And so he was like, okay, we had only been in that house because we got that in 95 and he died in 99. So we hadn't been there long. So he was just sitting there talking about, what else he want to do to the house and stuff like that. And so so that morning, he gets up like a normal, nothing's wrong. I think if I'm remembering it correctly, his glucose was good because we usually check it in the morning, make sure he can drive to work and all that stuff. Everything was fine. He said, we're going to church tonight. I said, we're going to church tonight? He said, yes, because of Wednesday night. And he's like, we're going to church. And so that was pretty, it was just a moment that I would have never thought it would have happened like that. And like I said, I was so upset. I'm like, Lord, how do you do that to me? You did, I took it personal. I said, Lord, you did that to me. You told me if I did it this way, I should have a husband before I have children. I should do this. I should be a good wife. I did it the way you said it, and now you took it from me. And my kids are 13 and 16. I wasn't the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Okay. I was the one that got them out of trouble. Okay. I'm the one that Wayne, don't you think they've been on punishment enough? Things like that. And so I was not used to any of that. And so even down to, I went back to school while Wayne was living. And I graduated from junior college in 97. And so he would always say, I'm going to do all the bills and stuff because I hated that part of the marriage. I'm like, I don't like to pay no bills.
So
I'm
you
not good
weren't
with
into
money.
that either. You weren't into so you had the disciplinary problem that you weren't that person.
No.
And then you also was not the financial manager
no.
of the house.
No. He did all of that, and he took so much pride in it.
Yeah.
When I tell you, he would literally go to the table, set everything out in order. But of course, Wayne used to be in the military.
Yes.
So he set everything out in order.
So that kind of making sense. Disciplinary, organized. Okay, that's making some
all
sense.
of that, all of that, all of that. So all I did, this was our agreement, and this is how we did the marriage. You take care of the house, and we both work. Take care of the house. You buy y'all clothes. You keep y'all looking good, and you can help pay this bill or that bill. But I got everything else. I'm like, okay. He said, now that's the way we're gonna do it. I'm like, okay, we'll do it. So we just worked together. When we got ready to, do whatever, buy a car, whatever, we like sit down, and he was like, hey, how about we do it like this, 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 this. I let him do it because I mean, really, that was not what I wanted to do anyways. So when he was no longer there, I was like,
now what am I going to do?
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Of course, one thing I do thank God for every day, that my husband was number one, he was a godly man. And he took care of business, just natural business, He took care of that. And so I still was like, God, why did you do this to me? Yeah. Why did you do this to me? I did it your way. I could not understand.
Yes.
I couldn't understand.
So one of the things that you had to you had to overcome all of that, the adversity of that, because one is you're still here, two is you still got the two girls, and then on from that, of course, you've got to maintain life in the house, and you got to keep going. You got to keep going. You can't stop at that point. You got to go forward. So it's some things that you had to deal with, and so we can get to how you began to become the disciplinarian and how you began to become the financial person for your household. Yeah. But one of the first things that you probably had to deal with was your emotional situation.
That was not
to be able to go forward even into those other things. You had to get your mind right and your emotions right.
Right.
So how did you begin to overcome that?
It was challenging because you have to realize I had two girls.
Yes.
Two beautiful girls, 16 and 13. The 16-year-old, she was like Wayne's best friend. So she was angry. And then Nikki was 13. And she was just really beginning to just build a relationship with her dad. And now it was gone. And so she was angry. So we were all like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Now, quickly, I had to tell myself, you can't break it. You can't crack up. You can't lose it. You can't lose it. You have two daughters that are watching you. And you cannot lose it. You have to be strong for them. Now, I had what I call Naomi in my life, because Wayne's mother was my Naomi. Anything I needed her to do for me, she always was right there. She like, Pat, I love you. You're not my daughter-in-law. You're my daughter. You're my daughter, and I'm gonna do for you like my daughter. So she was that to me, and that helped because having her around, I felt like a piece of Wayne was there with me to cope with what I was going through, because I was like, God, you abandoned me. I felt so abandoned. I really did.
Disappointed.
I felt lonely and abandoned. I didn't know how to process that. I really didn't.
Well, I tell you, it sounds like it's also a good thing that you married into a good family.
I did.
And that's always a good thing.
They're very loving. Still is.
Yeah, that's a good thing, and that's a good thing for anybody to think about before they even get into marriage. Hey, it may not be just this person. I might need to look into the family too.
Yes.
So
That
was helpful for you.
Yes, very, very helpful. And I had to I don't know. I remember many days. I took off a good while for work. I took off maybe a month or so before I went back to work. And when I did go back to work, it was an emotional roller coaster. It was. It was. I remember because the Department of Corrections had an office next door to the Department of Child Support Enforcement. And Wayne used to bring some of the inmates once they release to that building to get set up to go out into normal society. But what they had to first do is go to the Department of Correction and get that child support set up or things like that. And so just to see that vehicle ride up and bring those people, I couldn't stand it.
And it used to be him sometimes.
Yeah, it used to be him sometimes.
I see.
So I just was not good. I would just break down. I would go in the bathroom. I would come out. I was like, I gotta go home. I gotta go home, you know. So I had to leave that job actually.
Oh, I see.
I left that job and went to the Department of Family and Children's Services instead of Child Support Enforcement because I just couldn't stand to see that. It took me a while. People always came up to me like, because my dad raised us to be confident. You know, so, you know, when you go out of the house, you're confident. You are an Andrews you are an Andrews. So you go out of the house, you look the part and you walk the part. So everybody would see me like, oh, I'm so proud. I'm so inspired by you. I'm just like inside. Inside, you could not see the turbulence that I had to battle every day. I'm just like, I used to go, when I went to the Department of Family and Children's Services, that was right about a mile from my house. So in the evening, when it was time to get off, I would just work late because I didn't want to go home.
You didn't want to go home.
I knew I had my children at home. And I knew they was old enough to be right there till I get there because I was right up the street. But I didn't want to go home. And so, you know, I just start praying. I start developing anxiety, you know. At night I couldn't sleep because I was just so anxious. And that's when I feel that I developed my own personal relationship with God. Because as a married couple, the husband leads the house. He leads the prayer. I remember some nights when I would get up in the night. I would wake up and Wayne wasn't in the bed. If something was going on in the family, like whatever, and I would wake up and he would be in this one little spot in the house. He would be on his knees praying. So. He was no longer there to cover us. That's what I felt.
So is it that in your marriage you was kind of leaning on his spiritual strength,
absolutely.
some of that too?
Yes.
Not just his ability to manage the house, but really his fortitude and spiritual strength that he brought to the house.
Right.
You were kind of leaning on some of that.
Yes.
And by him being gone, you had begun to acknowledge that you needed some of that strength in yourself.
Exactly.
And you had to make a connection with God.
Exactly.
More, not to say that you didn't have one,
no,
but you had to strengthen it.
Yes, yes. I definitely had a relationship with God, but not, I felt like, kind of like the way we was brought up is like you're the man, your husband is your leader in your home, and he is going to protect your home. He's going to provide for you and things like that. So I knew him to be a very good husband. Very good husband. Loved his mom, loved his church, loved his children, loved me. Loved his house. So, and I'm not fabricating anything. He was a good man. And so when he passed away, I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do I supposed to do now? Tell me. And so I remember one day in my bedroom, I just had a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is I? And I just literally like start talking to God.
Yeah.
And saying, what do you want from me?
Mm-hmm.
Because now what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Money is not everything.
Right.
Money is not everything.
Certainly.
He took care of his business. I had more than I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even care about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't care about
Because
it.
there was so many more decisions that needed to be
was
made
yes,
other than
yes,
money.
yes. I never forget
Yeah.
that Bishop Lawson came to the house and he saw the house and he was like, "Are you going to be able to stay here?" I said, "Yes, sir. It's taken care of. I'll be here." He said, "You're not going to lose it?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to lose it. I can take care of that, you know." But it wasn't even about nothing material that he left.
Mm-hmm.
I always took it that, you said we was two, now one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just a half of one.
Yeah.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm
So
who am I?
you felt like you wasn't whole anymore.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, who am I now? We've been married for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just not the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did I lose him,
Mm-hmm.
we established friendships with married people.
Uh-huh.
I could now not do that. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I felt like I could not hang with them anymore.
I see what you're
So
saying.
I didn't even have the friends that I had because we always hung out as a couple.
As couples, yes.
And now I didn't want to be around them.
Mm-hmm.
So now what do I have? I didn't even have any. I had some single friends, but not as many. You know. I have my sisters in the church and things like that. Some of them were single, but not as many. I hung around. Brother Deacon Camp at the time and his wife. They were visiting us. Sister Larry, Lucas and her husband, Sister Cynthia, Lucas and Larry, and there was the kind of friends you had. So now I'm like, I don't have anything now.
So let me ask. So what did God give you? You talked to God one day.
Yes.
And so you just
Yes.
flat out asked Him.
Oh
so,
yeah.
no, what am I to do?
I'm like, Lord, what do you want from me? What am I supposed to do now? You took everything. That's what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you took that. So what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? And I mean, just something. I say, well, I'm just going to have to. You're going to have to do it. Because I don't even know how to. I know how to do business. I just didn't like to do business.
Yeah.
That's kind of like I tell people, I don't cook. I said I know how to cook, but I just don't like to cook.
Yeah.
So I said, so I know how to do. I know how to do that stuff, but I didn't like doing it. So He did it. So So but then the Lord, He just I don't know. It just it came to me that I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. In just a few days after that, I just had a sense of peace. That was just like, I was like, at first I was like crying into sleep every night and things like that. And I, wasn't sleeping, wasn't really eating as much. Trying to, look after the girls, making sure everything was okay with them. And the devil don't ever take a break.
No.
Okay? Because now, these little boys that were scared to say something to my girls.
Because of
Deacon Elliott.
Now they see the non-disciplinary, the non-disciplinary Sister Pat.
That's it, right. So now they're like, oh, I can call Marquita. I can call Nikki, And I'm just like, oh, Lord.
Then you had to defend
like,
the house.
Now, I had to become the gatekeeper of the house. It's just like, no, no, and things like that. But still, that peace, I don't know, I can't say when it came, but after a while, it was just like, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. So after I realized I was going to be okay, I went back to him. Okay, now God, and see, and I just kind of personalized this thing, and I just said like, okay, God, it's Pat again. Okay, now I got whatever. Now I want to be very wise. I don't, because I used to always remember Bishop saying he led silly women to captive or something. Or something.
Yes, yes.
What's that?
They lead silly women captive.
Captive. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And so at the end of the day, it's not good to be silly because that's when you get into bondage.
Right.
Yes.
So I was just like, I can't be a silly woman. I just can't. I cannot be. I said, I don't want to be. I want to make wise decisions, and I need you to make me wise.
Yes.
So I just had that conversation with him. I said, I want to guard my house, and I want to be wise. I don't want to take what we have accumulated together while he was living, and I don't want to lose anything. At that time, I had the first house, and then now I got the second house. So I still had it, and then actually I just sold the first house like a few months ago.
Well, that was wise.
Very wise.
Especially with the market.
Right,
That was
right,
a wise move.
right. Very wise.
Because sometimes you know when to get in, then sometimes you got to know when to get out.
Right,
and
right,
that was a good time to get out.
right.
Yes.
So, but so I prayed and I said, Lord, just guide me every way. I don't want anybody to manipulate me.
Yes.
Come in and take what I got, and leave me without. Just make me wise.
Yes.
And so shortly after that, I returned to school.
Yes.
I enrolled at Mercer University here in Atlanta, and I went through their program and I graduated.
Wonderful.
I graduated from there, and so once I did that, it kind of just it kind of opened doors for some different opportunities that I didn't have before, and so and God has been He has been very faithful to me.
Yes, yes.
He has been very faithful. And one of the things I prayed and asked about later, after now, fast forward, my girls are grown and
Yes.
out on their own.
Wonderful.
And doing, and doing and living their life.
Yes.
And so God is still holding me up.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He's still holding me up. And He's allowed me to just, He showed me that I never left you.
Yes.
I never left you, or neither did I abandon you
Right.
as you thought. Because
Yes.
I felt like that.
Yes.
And other people, they would, every time they saw me, and it was really just nerving in a way, because people will always see me and they were like, oh, you look so good and you're doing so good, and oh my God, I so admire you. I'm like, really? And I wasn't feeling none of that. I wasn't feeling none of the admiration that you may have of me. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling that. But I guess God was holding me up. They could see what I didn't see.
Yes.
They could see, and so I kept going. And I remember one of the mothers telling me, Sister Pat, you're going to be a help to so many people later. You're going to be a help. At that time, I was like, Mother, I don't want to help nobody. I want my husband.
I want my help.
My help. I'm like, I don't want to help anybody. And so, but she's like, you're going to be able to help so many people. So, but now I do see how God, still held me up, and He did not forsake me.
Yes, and it sounds as if He was always with you.
Yeah.
And He also began to do some things in you that needed to be done.
Yes.
And had Wayne been here all the time,
Right.
some of the things that have been done in you
Right. Maybe
may
not.
not have been done. May
That's
not
true.
have been
Maybe.
done.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we don't like the way things
Yeah.
happen. We
Right.
don't.
Right.
We would not choose that.
Right.
I get it.
Right,
I
right,
get it
right.
even for my own
Right,
life.
right.
If some sufferings I've had to suffer, I wouldn't choose it.
Right.
But the reality of it is we don't get to choose our sufferings.
Exactly.
And we all have to suffer some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And after we suffer a while, he makes us. And I just even pause right there. He makes us. And it's some more that goes along with that scripture. It says he makes us perfect. He
Yeah.
completes us. He settles us. He strengthens us.
Yes.
But I don't know if we would be made if we didn't go through some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some stuff we go through, it makes us. And, you know, I just don't know if you be the Sister Pat Allen you are today.
Probably.
Had you not gone
Yes.
through that adversity.
Yeah, and it does. It
Yeah.
does strengthen you. You know, after you get, you know, because once you've gone through it, then you look, you in retrospect.
Yeah, you look
You
back.
look back and like,
Yeah.
okay, I really did come through that, and you know, and you begin to think how God molded you and made you through that.
Yes.
He molded me and he made me, and I thank him every day. I don't take any of the opportunities that I have been granted, and more opportunities that I ever thought I would get. God was able to put those to play, and I still, right now, I still reverence my husband because he was a great husband, and he took care of his family. And even my daughters say a lot of time now, he said, man, Dad's still taking care of us, you know, in different things that he
had foresight.
exactly.
He had foresight.
And very young, very young, because like I said, he turned 40 in March. He passed in July. So, you know, very young. But the things that he put in place just covered a lot of ground, way off. And because he did that, he left his family where you don't have to do certain things. You don't have to go to somebody to say, hey, do this and do this and do that. Can I have this or that? None of that. And so in having that, I just always was like, Lord, teach me, guide me, show me how to do this, because I don't want to be that silly woman that can go through all that you have and now end up with nothing.
Squander it all.
Yeah.
And I know the scripture says that in all your ways acknowledge the Lord.
Exactly.
Don't lean to your own understanding. Trust in the Lord with all thine
Yeah.
heart. And lean not to thine own understanding.
Right.
In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And so you begin to acknowledge him and trust in him.
Yeah,
He began
I
to
just
direct
felt
your
like I
path.
didn't have anybody else to
Yeah.
trust. I mean, I have a good family,
Yes.
but I'm like, everybody got their own family, you know?
Yeah.
That's, you know, you just feel like you got to handle this yourself because everybody else have theirs. And not that if I had went to any family member, my sister, I mean, she was always there. My brother-in-law was, there to help with my girls, like talk to them. Like, I remember Brother Lawson just like, I'm going to take the girls out, and taking them somewhere and just talking to them. I couldn't do that because, I'm still hurting too.
Yeah.
And so you had to kind of deal with that and try to, think about it. Think about, okay, I got to provide for these girls because they're still young. And I got to live and things like that. And I can't say it enough. God he just stepped in and did an awesome work.
He put the right people in place.
Yes.
And then he gave you some right things to do.
Exactly.
And he began to direct
Yeah.
your path.
Yes. And one of the first things he did, he had allowed Brother Allen to come in contact with a very good financial advisor before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So when he did pass away, the financial advisor came in and said, hey, let's do this.
Yes.
And you would not have to worry too much going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of thing you did.
Yes.
That's the avenue I kind of followed.
Right.
You know, not that I didn't make some mistakes along the way, but you know, for the most part, you know, I was able to do and keep everything going well, and God was just good. He was just so awesome.
Yeah. And you continued the relationship with the financial advisor.
Yes.
And
yes.
because at that point, there's still some decisions that have to be
made. Yes.
ongoing.
Yes.
Ongoing.
Yes.
And that's where sometimes people begin to make the errors.
Oh yeah.
When they don't know.
Yeah.
And then they don't know who to talk to, the one who could advise and let them know how to do.
Yeah. And I knew that certain things need to be taking place. And so I just like, okay, let me just call the guy that Wayne used to talk to.
Yeah.
And just, see what he's going to tell us to do. And so he directed me how to invest and some other things that I had to set up. But, if I had to tell any young sister anything, any young sister in the church that married, I just would like, know your family business as well as your husband. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. You need to know it.
I agree.
I would tell them to know that, because it's so often that, they left not knowing, not even knowing where the insurance policy is, or how much it is, or who's the beneficiary of the insurance policy. Or you have property. What happened if the husband passed and you got this property over here? What are they going to do with it? Because by law, some things can be done if you're not on there. If he didn't say in that property, say if something happened to him, that half of my property go over to my wife.
Right.
If that's not there, then that piece of property could be broken up to a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. Transparency. I need to have a conversation with my wife.
Yes.
Because and I've had some conversations, but I really need to help her to be sober about the fact that it's not guaranteed that I'm always going to be here to do what I do.
Yeah.
And some of it, I think that she would have to get her bearings on that stuff, because I just do it.
Absolutely.
And I even think about it sometimes and say, I mean, what if I wasn't doing this? Because I'll just speak to my wife, hey, I did such and such, I did such, and she's like, she just go on about it. Like she don't have a care in the world. But I love doing it myself.
Yes.
But I do think she needs to be have a certain level of awareness.
Yes.
To where, if in the event or if something did happen, she could go on. She could go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like the men of the house like to do that, because that's just part of taking care of business.
Yes.
You know. But then at the same time, what if something happened? Because I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have not thought. I just knew Wayne and I was going to get old together. I had even told him what he was going to look like when he get old. Yeah.
That was before the cell phone could just age
exactly. He has an uncle. He has an uncle that I became very fond of. His name was Uncle Clifford, and every time I saw his Uncle Clifford, I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
You're going to look just like your Uncle Clifford when you get older. So, yes. So, you don't expect ever. It's not like he was sick. Yeah, he had diabetes, but you live with diabetes,
Right.
So he wasn't on insulin or anything like that. He just, get up, take a pill. If he have to take a pill, eat right. Eat balanced meals and things like that. So it wasn't like it wasn't like a sickness or illness that, you got used to and then you got a chance to tell him. That. So, and I think that was one of the biggest things for me and my girls. We just we didn't say bye.
You didn't say goodbye, right?
Right. Because even after, they found him, they wouldn't let us see him. They were like,
yeah.
Yeah. So we, because he'd been in water.
In water, yes.
For a long time. And then one of his best friends was a state trooper. So he said, Patricia, I'm going to identify Officer Allen for you. And he did. And then he called me. He said, that's him. Because he was in our car too,
Right.
So, it was no kind of way expected. But then after, like I said, God was there, even when you didn't think and that's how I was like, even when you don't think he's there, he's there.
He's there.
It don't feel like it all the time. That's funny. And you're like, I'm not feeling this. And, and I often say I got this really silly relationship with God. And I'm like, I ain't feeling this. I'm not feeling this. You got to talk to me. You got to show me. But then he does. He shows you. He comes to you, and he just speaks to your heart.
Yes.
And to say, I got you.
So he brought the peace.
Peace.
And then he gave you the direction.
Sure is. Yes.
And so he has brought you to this point to where you can strongly proclaim that you are blessed.
Oh, yeah.
And that you are in the Father's hands.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that he has never forsaken you.
He have not. He have not. Yeah, he's been there all the time, and I thank God for that. I really do. I stand on that. Yeah. And I tell anybody, because since then, several friends and neighbors have lost their companion. And they are now widows like myself. Yeah. And I can go to them, and I he's going to be with you. Yes. He didn't leave me. He got you. Yeah. I said, just go to him and tell him what you need, and he will be with you. Yes.
And so I appreciate you sharing with us today, and there may be some others that are going through something similar, maybe even on the other side, maybe a widower, or what have you. Yeah. But the Lord is a faithful God, and He doesn't leave nor forsake His people. Yes. He does not forsake His saints. Yes. He don't forsake His people. Right. He didn't forsake you.
No, He didn't. And I am so grateful.
Yes, and I appreciate you.
So grateful, so grateful.
Thank God for you, and thank God for you all. May the Lord bless you.
Yes.
Until next time.
Thank you.